Hi, this is Ambie from Board Game Blitz, and today I'm here with my co-host, Crystal.
Hi!
Yay! Today we're doing a special video. We're doing the Tabletop Tag, which was started by Jenna from the Board Game Garden, and we actually got tagged by Sarah from Rolling With 2. So I'll put those channel links in the description below. Oh, we're actually streaming this live on Twitch. So if you want to see it, well, if you want to have seen something like this before the YouTube, you should go check us out on Twitch. But yeah, this is edited from Twitch. So if we are looking off screen or talking to chat or something weird, then that's why. But this is an edited down version for YouTube.
So any weirdness is only because we're streaming on Twitch. It has nothing to do with us as humans, just because we're streaming on Twitch.
Yes. So basically there are 20 questions that are mostly about board games, I think. But the first one is not. So first one, name, age, and location. We already told you our names. I'm
Well,
Ambie.
I mean, we could more formally introduce ourselves.
That's true.
I'm Crystal Dax.
I'm Ambie Valdez.
I am 37 years old.
I'm 34 years old. I had to think about it.
And I was born and raised in Missouri, but I have lived in Las Vegas, Nevada for the past 14 years.
And I was born in Southern California, and now I live in the Bay Area in California, which is like 6 hours away from Southern California. So it's a bit, but yeah. California.
Well, that was easy.
Yeah,
Are all the
that's
questions
easy.
going to be this easy?
Yes.
Totally. All right, perfect.
So next question. Favorite childhood board game? What's your favorite, Crystal?
I played a lot of board games when I was a kid, including some kind of off the beaten path ones. Like I played a lot of the usuals, but one of my favorites was the Omega Virus, which I have talked about ad nauseum on the internet because I love it. To this day, I still own my original copy, and I am very, very excited that Restoration Games is going to be revamping and re-releasing it. I know that it is something that they had near the top of their wish list basically since the company's inception, and I won't lie, I'm pretty sure I'm the most excited about it. Like,
Yeah,
Rob Davio, nope, I'm more excited than him. Like, and you can take that to the bank.
So my favorite childhood board game, it's hard to pick one because childhood has different levels. I remember when I was very young, my favorite game was the Little Mermaid game, which because I liked The Little Mermaid. That was my favorite Disney movie. But when I was an older child, like when I was like 8, I played it again and didn't like it because it was kind of boring. So when I was older, I liked Clue. So that's probably like my favorite that carried over until I was through adulthood kind of. So yeah, Clue was a good one. Question number 3.
Right. So Ambie, when did you really get into the board game hobby?
So we already mentioned that both of us played board games as kids too. So like I played a lot of board games as kids, but I consider getting into the board game hobby like more as an adult because that was like my own choice then. So after college, in college, I played a lot of Dominion with my friends, but I was also busy with schoolwork and stuff. So after college, I started getting more into the board game hobby and started like actually actively researching games more. And I also was dating Toby then and we kind of both got into board gaming together. So we had both like independently played Dominion and some other games, and then like together we started getting into the hobby more and like researching and watching YouTube and stuff, playing more games, making miniature market orders, stuff like that. So after college, which is so I graduated in 2010, and so we started my BGG account I think was 2012. So that's when I got a BGG account. If that,
I mean, that does seem like kind of a touch point for many gamers.
Yeah.
Like you said, I've always played board games to some degree throughout my entire life, but I got into the hobby like more seriously in 2007, right after I graduated from college. I couldn't find work. This was right before the Great Recession in 2008. And so the job market was saturated, and I ended up working at a casino in Kansas City for a little while. And some of the other people who worked in the poker room with me invited me to a game night at someone's house. And I was like, that sounds like fun. So I went over and they taught me a whole bunch of really popular hobby board games, like back in the early mid 20, the aughts, I think is what you call the zeros. And what's really interesting about it for me now is one of the people I met at that casino and was part of that board game group is now the current person that I'm dating. We were apart for 15 years. Both of us got married. He had kids, and then we both getting divorced. And now it's a funny story, but like he's come back into my life, and he was part of the first hobby board game group I was ever in. And so it's just a nice little,
that's
like,
cool.
I don't know, coming back around thing. Yeah.
Next question. What's the first game you purchased? And do you still own that game?
Well, okay, so if we're talking getting into the hobby proper again, because like I had played games, I had owned, party games, other things like that before. But so let's, after I moved to Las Vegas in 2008 and I left that board game group, I did not have a collection at all. I owned, I think, no board games. Anything that did not fit in my Pontiac Sunfire did not come from Missouri to Vegas with me. And so board games were definitely not on the list, because if you don't know what a Pontiac Sunfire is, it's a very small 2-door car. So the games that I bought first were mostly games that I had played with my board game group in Missouri that I still really liked. So things like Race for the Galaxy. Interestingly enough, I don't remember what year it was, but like one of my first big like board game purchases was Battlestar Galactica. But that was a couple years later, I think. I know I bought Seven Wonders fairly early, but that didn't come out, I think, until 2010. So we'll say Race for the Galaxy was probably one of my first, because I played it in Missouri and I still loved it, and I definitely still own it, and now I have all of the expansions for it as well.
Yeah, I'm also skipping like games that I bought in high school or whatever. Like I bought like Lord of the Rings Monopoly, Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Rings back. Actually, I still have Lord of the Rings Backgammon, but that was like before getting into the hobby. I actually have my miniature market orders that I can look up. Toby actually bought games before I did. So I think he bought Arkham Horror was one of the first games he bought. And that was before I got the BGG account. And then I'm looking at Board Game Geek, the date added for my collection, because like I got an account to start logging my collection, I think. And my first one, other than the party games that I had, that I like already had, I think the first game was Thunderstone that I had bought. And so I think I bought that at a local game store because I had liked Dominion. And then one of my friends said, oh, if you like Dominion, you should try Thunderstone. And no, I don't still own it. And then I made a miniature market order in September of 2012. And that was Mage Knight, Betrayal at House on the Hill, and Lord of the Rings Living Card Game.
Betrayal at House on the Hill was 100% one of my first purchases. That is definitely one of mine.
Yeah, and I don't own any of those either.
You know what's funny? I actually bought Mage Knight also really early in my tenure as a board gamer. Oh, really? And then I got it, I opened it, tried to understand what was happening, put it back away, and never opened it again. Oh, wow. I eventually traded it or sold it, and I'm sure now I would be fine, but like back then that was a little bit too much, at least for me to learn on my own. I was playing games of that complexity, but I did not, teaching myself a game of that complexity I was not equipped for quite yet.
I remember I brought the rule books, like it had 2 rule books, like a player's guide and a rule book, and then I brought those into work and read them at work, and then like I played a solo learning game, and then I played it with Toby, and then Toby didn't like it, so that's why we don't have it. Because I don't really play games solo, but yeah.
Question number 5. Do we have any hobbies other than board games?
Yes, I have a lot of hobbies. I like singing, I like reading, I like crocheting, knitting, I like art, I like anime, but like a lot of my hobbies I had combined. So back before I started my YouTube channel, I liked making song parodies and singing, and like I hadn't made one in a while, so like I started making song parodies about board games. So that kind of like combines those hobbies. And then also like making creative stuff with board game stuff and making the board game content. That's like making board game content is basically a hobby within board games. So I'm like combining all this stuff. Oh, I also like jigsaw puzzles. I stream those on Twitch. So yeah, see, we're combining. And playing video games. I stream those on my personal Twitch now. So I'm like making content out of my hobbies is another hobby.
I mean, if you're going to do it anyway, right? Yeah. Like you're like, well, why not? For me, I don't currently have a ton of super like prevalent hobbies in my life. I love video games in addition to board games. And I actually somewhat recently have been really into virtual reality. I owned an Oculus Rift, and then I got an Oculus Quest. And I've found more friends who own them and have really gotten into multiplayer gaming in virtual reality, especially miniature golf. I've played so much miniature golf in VR, and it is shockingly fun. Also, I'm really good, which I'm like, did I miss my calling? Is there a professional golf, professional miniature golf? Because that's what I want to do now. I also really like painting, specifically acrylic pour style paintings. A lot of actually almost all of the artwork in my house is stuff that I've done, which not everybody knows when they come into my house, but it's kind of neat that people don't realize that, because I guess it means it looks good. And I love karaoke, although I admittedly have not done it much the past couple of years because pandemic, but I usually go to a private room anyway if I do karaoke. So I'd say those are probably my biggest ones. Oh, and hanging out with my dogs. I don't know if that counts as a hobby, but I spend a lot of time with them. So
I mean, I guess, yeah, I spend a lot of time with my kids, but I don't know if that's a hobby.
Well, I've got 3 dogs to your 2 kids, so,
Question 6. What was your breakthrough game?
I will admit, I didn't know what this meant. I had to ask Ambie. I was like, what's a breakthrough game? That's not a term that I am super familiar with. Just to define it, in case anyone else is like me and doesn't know what that means, I guess it is kind of the game that solidified your love of gaming. Is that a good description? Or
Maybe,
really got you into the hobby?
Got you into the hobby, I guess. Yeah.
In deep. So I did not mention this one earlier intentionally because I knew this question was coming. And my breakthrough game definitely 100% was Runebound. Admitted, and at that point it was 2nd edition, although I now own 2nd edition and 3rd edition. I love Runebound so much. I really wish Fantasy Flight would support 3rd edition with new maps. Fantasy Flight, please, just give me some new maps. But it's a great adventure-style game, and especially with the cooperative expansion, it is spectacular. I love it to this day, and I've been playing it since 2007.
I did not plan ahead like Crystal, and mentioned both of my breakthrough games, which is like Dominion and Arkham Horror. So yeah, like Dominion in college is basically like my breakthrough of playing a bunch, and then Arkham Horror was a breakthrough of like the first hobby game that we kind of got and then started playing, and we're realizing, oh, there's like a lot to these games. And we actually met like one of our gaming friends from playing Arkham Horror, like on Reddit. I think Toby had seen like someone else lived in the Bay Area and liked Arkham Horror too. And we're like, oh, we should play Arkham Horror together. And then like we were still friends with them. So that's pretty neat.
Question number 7. A theme that always draws you in.
This is hard for me because like I like different themes, but I guess probably, well, outside of Lord of the Rings.
Which, I mean, that counts.
Well, yeah, but I don't know if it always draws me in. But I mean, I guess it makes me kind of interested. But there's also time travel, which
you do love time travel.
Yeah, but I don't know about always drawing me in. Like, it usually makes me look at the game and be like, oh, is this something that I would like? But then I look at like, what is the game exactly? And then I might not be interested in it after like reading the description or something.
So for me, the theme that always draws me in, I'll give 2 answers because one's kind of a cheat, but I think it would count. If I see a theme that I've never seen in board games before, that draws me in.
Yeah.
Anything that is unique, that will draw me in. But then if we had to like actually name a theme, I'm also a sucker for space games, but I wouldn't say it always draws me in because there are a lot of space games. Yeah. But generally, if it is space themed, I'm at least going to take a look. Whereas there are other themes that I'm maybe not even going to give a second glance to.
Yeah. Oh, and continue on the unique theme thing. Like that's also what I meant by like different themes, but a theme that is of some other hobby that I'm into, like crocheting or something weird like jiu-jitsu. There was a board game about Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So yeah, something unique that is something else that I like. Is there a board game about speed cubing? I know there's like Rubik's Cube board games, but those aren't like the same thing as like the speed cubing hobby. But like that would probably be something like, oh, what?
That feels like something that would be very difficult to translate into a board game experience. My mom also very astutely in the chat said, give her Trek. Yes, Star Trek games, but there are a lot of not so great Star Trek board games. So truthfully, I think when I see a Star Trek board game, I'm instantly skeptical and then also curious.
All right, question 8. What is your favorite mechanism or mechanisms?
Worker placement. I have really kind of solidified that this is generally my favorite mechanism. That doesn't mean I like every game that has worker placement in it, but I really enjoy a lot of games that have worker placement as their primary mechanism.
I think if I have to pick just one, I think it's deduction. So like deduction I really like, but I mean, I'm going to cheat and well, it does have an S at the end of the question in parentheses. So you can say mechanisms. I like real-time cooperative games as well. Like specifically real-time cooperative, because like real-time by itself I sometimes like, and cooperative by itself I also sometimes like, but real-time cooperative together, I like that combo. And deduction games.
I really like cooperative games as well in general. I don't like, is that it's not, I don't know if that's a mechanism, but I think, I would put cooperative games up there for me as well. All right. Question number 9. A mechanism you don't like or that you're not good at.
I have a few for this.
So you're like, let me tell you all the things I don't like.
I don't really like area control that much, but sometimes I do. So I think it's like attacking each other territories, area control that I don't like as much, but I'm fine with like area majority rather than just, I don't know, like there's a difference and it's hard to explain. But I also am not a big fan of like bidding and auctions. I'm not very good at those, even though a lot of games that I play have a lot of auctions and biddings, and I do end up like liking them when I play them. I just don't really like, I don't get excited about playing auction and bidding games.
I generally do not like deck building, but that over time has slowly changed a little bit for me. I think, as the question said, don't like or not good at. When like a pure deck builder like Dominion, I tend to not be that good at. For me, my brain has a really hard time grokking when that moment is when you need to shift away from purchasing, the early stage game cards and the late stage game cards, or when to start removing cards from your deck if that is available. And I just can never get the synergy out of my deck that I want. And I used to play Magic the Gathering with my ex occasionally, and whenever we would draft or anything, my brain has a hard time picturing how things will work with one another. Like there are certain cards in certain deck building games where you're like, oh, if you have this, then you should definitely also have this, and they'll all like help each other and make things great. My brain does not pick up on those nuances right away in a deck building game. I wonder if it's like ADHD related, like because the cards, I can't see them anymore. They don't exist. Like maybe that's a thing. I don't know. But yeah, deck building, not generally my jam. There are definitely exceptions to that. And I think Clank is a notable one. I really enjoy Clank. But yeah, deck builder's not my jam typically.
Question 10. What is the newest game or games in your collection, and have you played them? Crystal, you can go first.
Oh gosh. Okay. So Ambie is laughing because I got a delivery this week and I got another delivery last week. And just in those 2 packages, I have 8 new games. I do not usually order large groups of games like that, but Board Game Geek was having a sale, and it was a lot of foreign games from not North America. So like this game, I believe, is from India, and it's about like traditional like weaving looms, I think. And so that one's kind of neat. This one is like Rhino Hero-esque, but it's about making cakes, and you have to hold it on your hand while you stack everything up. Yeah. I was like, heck yes, I want that game. This one's actually an older game that got reprinted. I think it's a trick-taking game. I don't remember anything else about it, but I like trick takers. Patios, I believe, was a tile laying game with really pretty artwork, so I grabbed that. Fruit picking is a Moncala style game that I've played a ton of on Board Game Arena, and now I own my own copy. Twinkle. It's about space. I said I liked space. I don't remember. That's what it looks like. And then I also have the 2 new releases from BoardGameTables.com. You all have heard me talk about them a lot. I own every game they've published, including the 2 newest. So I've got Psychic Pizza Deliverers Go to the Ghost Town and Dandelions.
I think that Pizza Deliverer one is on my want to play list, I think.
It's got deduction in it.
Yeah.
So
I think I heard about it a long time ago and like put it on my want to play list.
Yeah. So needless to say, these are the newest games I've bought. And no, I have not played any of them yet. They're all still in shrink.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Yeah, I have a game day on this coming Saturday. But one of my friends is bringing over 2 games that he wants to play, so I don't know if we will get to any of mine.
All right, so I have one game that we bought. This was kind of an impulse purchase. We bought it and then got it in time for game night a couple weeks ago, and that's Master Word. So this is a cooperative word party game, which our group likes a lot of. It's kind of like Mastermind mixed with a word game. So like if you're Mastermind, if you're familiar with Wordle, it's kind of like that, where you're trying to guess a word, and so one person's the clue giver, and then everyone else is like making up clue question things. So like, for example, they know that it's an animal, so then people are guessing mammal, land, fish, and then the clue giver, the clue guide, that's what they're called, tells you how many of those are related to the word, but doesn't tell you which ones. So like you keep going until you can guess the word, basically. And it's kind of hard to think of good clues because you don't know which clues are right. You just have to like, oh, one of them's right, but which one? It could be either this or this or this. And like, okay, that didn't narrow it down at all. So yeah, it was fun. We did like a top 5 word games in a recent podcast episode. I don't think this would make the list though, because as the guide, I didn't enjoy being the guide as much because like I didn't get to do as much as in other word games where it's like more trying to come up with creative clues as the clue guesser and giver and stuff. But I did enjoy it. And yes, I have played it.
All right, moving on to number 11, favorite player count. This is not something that we've ever really discussed, I think.
For me, it depends on the game. Party games you don't want to play with fewer players usually, and so I like a lot of party games with like more people, but overall 4 players I like, because you can still play party games with 4 players, and the ones I do nowadays are good with 4 players, and a lot of games work well with 4 players, I think.
I would agree wholeheartedly. I think for me 4 players is generally the sweet spot because of the variety of games you can play with that many players. But I will admit that for certain games, I really enjoy playing 2 players, even if they are not just a 2-player game, especially if there is meanness baked into the game. Because for me, in a multiplayer game, I struggle, like, there are certain games where it makes sense to attack X player or Y player. And then there are other games where you kind of just have to randomly choose who you will be antagonistic toward. And I hate those moments in games. In a 2-player game, I will destroy you because it's just you and me. I don't have to feel bad about it. You know it's coming. I know it's coming. It's fine. So I really, if we're talking about a game where there's like tense conflict, give me 2 players all day. But if we're talking most other games, 4 is great.
Yeah, I wish I had played Disney Villainous at 2 players because I think I would like it more. Because I played it at 4 players and it like took a long time and there was a lot of take that and I did not like that. But it's probably better at 2 players. Also, other games that are good at 2 players are like escape room type games or games that require a lot of reading. Those could be 1 player or 2 players, I think. Number 12, what is your board game pet peeve?
I would say it is constant whining. Like the player who is always mad when you do something that stops what they wanted to do, takes a spot that they wanted, puts you ahead of them, like anything that puts, like, gives you something good or gives them something bad, and they just cannot handle it. And then they win the game anyway. Because it's almost always the people who are, I found some of the people who are the whiniest and the most complaining about the mid-game bad moments tend to be the people who are very good at games, and they often win anyway. And it's like, yo, just like, I gotta take my turn. That's the only spot I can put my people. Like, I did. Like, what do you want from me? And I will say AP, analysis paralysis, taking way too long on terms, on turns also annoys me sometimes, but I also suffer from that sometimes. So I try to give a little grace in that regard. But I will say I've had some game nights in the past where like really light and easy games took way longer than they should have. And I was just like, I just want this to be over now.
Yeah, I might be guilty of the whining sometimes. I try not to do it as much, but
I mean, for the record, I think I'm also guilty of everything I mentioned. Like at times, like we all have those moments, right?
Yeah. So it's hard for me to think of a pet peeve because like I'm guilty of a lot of stuff. Maybe AP also with me, but like I feel like I've gotten more AP recently. So nah,
I think that's because we're getting older and our brains don't work as quickly as they used to.
Yeah. I also have like the mom brain thing now, so I don't know. Maybe people interrupting during rules explanations. That might be the most pet peeve I have. Especially if you're like trying to teach them and then they interrupt trying to like teach as well. Yeah, that can get annoying.
Number 13, what player color do you use the most often? Okay, wait. Ambie and I can answer for each other on this one.
Yeah.
Ambie's favorite player color is blue.
Yep. And Crystal's is purple.
Yeah. I will admit, though, I am not one of those people that has to play purple and I throw a hissy fit about it. I do know people that are like that about their player color, but I also get it because if you always play a certain color, then somebody else is that color, you will move their pieces. So I do get it, but that's why I try and not be that beholden to purple. A, it's not in every game, and B, yeah, if other people want that color, I will let them have it. My top 3 are purple, pink, and orange in that order. The 4 primaries that are in most games, blue, red, green, and yellow, meh, whatever. I think I've actually kind of gravitated toward blue over time, but that's a popular one, so I'll take whatever I can get.
Yeah, I usually, like, I let other people take it if they really want it, but usually most people don't really care. But yeah, like, it's happened where someone else is blue and then I get confused because I think that's me. And then I'm like, wait a minute, that's not me that did that. What happened? What's going on? All right. Question number 14, read the rulebook or watch a how to play video.
So wait, so for Ambie, it's read the rulebook.
Yes. Weren't you also read the rulebook? But you don't like it, right?
I'm a writer by trade. Yeah. I like to read. I hate board game rulebooks.
Yeah, but I thought like you had to read it to learn it. You want like someone to teach you, but like, do you learn from the video?
I learn from any means but the rulebook if I can. And then I usually have to supplement with the rulebook, but
so maybe that's what I was thinking. You have to supplement with it.
I mean, eventually the rulebook usually has to come in handy. So what I tend to do if I'm learning, let's say, not a really simple game, I'll learn from the rulebook because it's going to be scan. Okay, we're good. But if we're talking like a bigger, complex game, if Rodney Smith has a video on the Watch It Played channel, that is where I go first, always. Otherwise, I will look for other how to play videos, and then I will set the game up on the table and like do the setup with them and like put the things out and then watch how to play with the game out on the table. I kind of have to visualize the things. I have to see them. After I've watched the how to play video, then I'll pick up the rule book and kind of go through that. Okay. But I'll have the additional context in my brain already. Because when I go in dry to a rule book, I tend to struggle sometimes.
Okay. So it's like both, kind of.
Yeah, kind of.
But in the order of video, then rule book. For me, I think it's rule book, then video maybe, but I don't really watch videos that much for how to play. I also like taking out the components and like putting them out and having it there to play with while I'm reading the rule book, so I kind of like know what's going on.
Bonus answer for you all that is a little bit different than what the question said. I know for a fact that there are tens of games that I own, have taught, and have never read the rule book of.
Oh yeah, I knew that, so I should have known your answer to that.
I have a bad habit of someone will teach me a game. I will fall in love with it, and then I will immediately go teach it to other people without having ever touched the rule book, which truly is probably not that smart. And so I've started getting used to kind of telling people, hey, by the way, this might not be right. Like, if you decide to play this game again later, You should probably read the rule book. This may not be accurate. Let's move on anyway. And really, as far as I'm concerned, I do like to try and stay to the spirit of the original game as it was intended by the designer. I'm not trying to subvert their intentions, but I also recognize that if everybody at the table is playing by the same rules and we're all having a good time, it does not matter if we are playing by the correct rules. Okay, number 15. This is a good one. Favorite snack to eat while playing board games?
This is tough for me because a lot of times I'm not eating while playing a board game. Like it's usually a break between playing the board games, or we like take a break from the board game and then eat. I'm not allowed to eat in the game room, me specifically, because I spilled.
That's cute.
So
did you implement that rule or did your husband implement that rule?
Toby did.
He's like, we're just going to take this plate of spaghetti back in the kitchen.
No, good. Well, I think once I was eating ice cream and then like spilled some on the table, I'm like, whoops. So yeah, but I like lots of snacks. I like cheese. Lots of times we have like a cheese platter, cheese and crackers, or like fruit, cut up fruit or like grapes or something. Most of the time we just like go to the other room and eat that while we're not playing a game. So I don't really eat while at the game table usually.
For me, does pizza count as a snack? Because it can be a meal, but sometimes like we'll order pizza and then just kind of munch on it throughout the evening. Yeah. So I think pizza kind of counts for me. Cheese definitely is a good one. Like I'll go to Trader Joe's and get a bunch of like fancy cool cheeses and cut those up. I also really like cookies. So I'll order cookies from like Crumble or like, which is one of the like fancy delivery cookie places. My friends are always like, I'll ask them if they want Crumble and they're like, well, no, I mean, we're fine. And then if I order Crumble, they're like, it's gone. Like they love them. I'm like, yeah, huh? I know I'm a bad influence, but it's okay.
That reminds me that like boba is one that we can eat, well, drink at the table, because like drinks we can have and sometimes we order boba and that's good. All right, question 16. Have you ever been to a board game convention? If so, which ones?
Yes, is the answer to that. MeepleCon. Every year it has existed from 2015 to now. It turned into Dice Tower West a few years back, but it was MeepleCon originally. STG-Con, which is a very small board game convention that happened in St. George, Utah. I don't know if they still do it, but I went to that. That was one of my earliest conventions because it was a small one and it felt like not so scary. I've been to Gen Con once. I've been to BGG Con once. I've been to Dice Tower Con a few times. I've been to PAX Unplugged twice. I think that's it. Never been to Origins. Never been out to any of the cons in California. Oh wait, BlitzCon. I went to BlitzCon. We hosted BlitzCon 2 years. 1 year had 50 people and the next year had 100 people. And it honestly was the most delightful thing. And I wish we had the bandwidth to continue doing something like that, but we don't.
Yeah, and I have been to lots of conventions as well. The first one I went to was KublaCon, which is our local convention, and I've gone most years since then. I think 2013 was the first year I went. And then 2014 was the first time I went to an out-of-state convention, Dice Tower Con, in Florida. And I went every year. This is the first year I missed it. Well, I mean, I was going to miss it a couple of years ago because of kids, but COVID also made everyone miss it. So this was the first year I officially missed it. And then BGG Con, I don't remember which year was the first year I went to that, but I went a few times. And then, so 1 year, 2017, I went to like 7 or 8 different conventions that year. And I blogged about all of them. So okay. I've also been to BlitzCon, and it was renamed to BatCon because we are no longer helping out with it, but my friend is still running it. Then,
yeah, I'm glad they're still doing it. That's awesome.
Well, it kind of also went on pause, so I'm not sure if it's coming back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. HeavyCon, which was hosted by a Heavy Cardboard podcast in 2017. I also went to Portland 18XX convention that year.
Well, I forgot one, and it also applies to you.
I went to Gen Con 1 year in 2017. That was like their 50th anniversary. And yeah, what was the other one?
Dice Tower Cruise.
Dice Tower Cruise. That was not 2017 for me though. Yeah. That's like Cruise Con. T-Con. T-Con is our Toby's birthday party mini convention. Gen Can't.
Oh yeah, definitely Gen Can't. And Just for the record, in case anyone's watching on Twitch or on YouTube and they're like, man, you guys have been to a bunch of board game conventions. And I have heard this from people in the past who kind of feel like they aren't a real board gamer if they haven't been to a board game convention. And that is definitely not true. If you've never been to a board game convention, that is totally fine. They are really neat experiences for some people, and they're very overwhelming for other people. And small cons, big cons, they're all a little bit different. They can be really, really fun and a really neat way to try a bunch of new games and to meet a bunch of new friends if that is something that you're interested in.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I also have been to MeepleCon and Dice Tower West, which I didn't say because I forgot, because you said it, and so I was like, assuming I already said it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, also HateyCon, which is like, has a lot of publishers trying out their prototypes. That's a local one. I think that's it for all the conventions.
Question number 17. What's an unreleased game that you are most looking forward to?
I just did a Gen Con, like looking at the Gen Con games. So I cheated and looked at that because I don't really know that many unreleased games. But Kites, I think, has not come out yet as of the time of recording this. That's a real-time cooperative game from Floodgate Games where you're using like sand timers, which is like a really cool mechanism. And I like real-time cooperative games, so I'm looking forward to that. Also, Exit the Game, Lord of the Rings. So I really like the escape room exit games, and I like Lord of the Rings. So I'm looking forward to that.
There's a lot of good stuff coming up, but I think for me, the one I am most excited about is Artisans of Splendent Vale, which is the new game coming out from designer Nikki Valens, who also designed Legacy of Dragonholt. Yeah. Artisans of Splendent Vale is a cooperative adventure game with a very diverse cast of characters, lots of cool world building and story in it, and I am stoked. Legacy of Dragonholt is one of my favorite game experiences I've ever had. I played through it solo, and based on that game and what this game is to me, in my mind, it is kind of like that, but like way bigger and way more stuff, and more people can play more easily. Like Legacy can be played multiplayer, but I like it solo. This one I feel like I'm really going to enjoy playing multiplayer. So Artisans of Splendent Vale, it's coming out this year. I don't remember what the last Kickstarter update said, but I think they're getting relatively close to shipping. I could be mistaken. I'm just probably being optimistic.
Question 18. What is your favorite thing about the board game hobby?
The camaraderie, the community, the getting to interact with other human beings, which like you can interact with other people in lots of different ways and in lots of different hobbies, but board games are unique in that they provide a shared experience. And while I do enjoy playing games online, I tend to do it with like video and voice chat on for the most part, because for me, it is about that connection with other people. And the mechanisms and the themes of the games are all well and good. But for me, at the end of the day, the people are my favorite part about the board game hobby, hands down.
Yeah. And I like that. Like, so I'm an introvert, so I like that like board games can help make that connection with people. Because otherwise, like my other hobbies are all just solo things. So this is like the only way I have of hanging out with people doing a hobby. And then also like the people that you meet through it, they're not all similar. Like some hobbies, it's mostly introverts doing it. But then with board games, it's like extroverts and introverts. And then it has like that structure. So like the structure helps with introverts meeting other people. And then there's also extroverts who play it because extroverts like hobbies that involve other people. So yeah, I think it's really interesting, like having all the different types of people that you meet.
Yeah. And I mean, even for people who are extroverted like me, when you go to a place like a convention and there's large crowds and people who know each other and don't know each other and whatever. Like, let's say you walk into, I guess this is a bad example, but like when I was younger, you know, I'd go to a bar with a friend or whatever. And like to walk up to a stranger and just strike up a conversation is a very awkward thing for most people, including many extroverts. But at a board game convention, like when you have a space where you know everyone shares an interest, it's easier, not easy for everyone, but easier to be like, hey, stranger, would you like to play this game? Yes? sure, let's go grab a table. And I do that at board game conventions all the time. I've gotten way better at it over the years, but especially if I'm flying solo, sometimes I still have those moments where I struggle, where I'm just like, oh, I don't want to like bother people or whatever. And it's like, no, they're all here to game too. Like, just ask. If they say no, I'll find somebody else. So, see, number 19. Open and punch a game right when you get it, or wait until you play it for the first time.
I kind of do both. I've been doing more like unboxings on stream now, so I like open it not right when I get it, but like soon after I get it. But then punching it is usually not until I'm closer to playing it, or at least like learning the rules, because I like organizing them back into easy setup. So I usually want to know how the game plays, or like how the setup is going to be before I punch it, so that I can put them into baggies that make sense for setup. And then I also still have some boxes that are in shrink that I haven't played yet.
Anyone in my local board game group who stumbles across this video eventually will laugh when they hear this question, because I am one of those rare board gamers. I know that I am rare. I know my opinion is not the norm. I hate punching board games. So many people love doing it, find it cathartic, find it like enjoyable. Mm-hmm. I hate it. 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 If I could never punch another board game ever again, I would choose that. That being said, I will often not punch a game at all until we're actively opening it up to play it, and that way my friends can help me punch it. Or I actually have become notorious. One of my friends loves punching board games, genuinely. Like, he really enjoys punching them, assembling the pieces if they need to be assembled. He really likes that. So when he comes over for game night now, he'll ask me, Crystal, what new games have you bought? And he will unshrink them, open it, and start punching and assembling. And it is like the best gift you could give me as a person, is to punch and organize my board games for me. He is the best. He's coming over on Saturday, and I have, 8 new boxes? I'm going to be like, ta-da! Nice. No, these ones are smaller, so it won't be so bad. But yeah, like when I got the new version of Descent, he opened it up and assembled all of the little terrain pieces and everything, and I was just like, this is the best. So yeah, if anyone ever needs to punch games, they feel that urge, you just come to my house. I promise you I will have something in shrink for you.
If we lived closer, my kids could punch for you.
Oh my gosh, I would totally let your kids punch my games. And people would be like, what if a token tears? I'd be like, I do not care. I don't want to punch them. If I don't have to punch it, I'll take a torn token. I don't care.
Yeah, they punch my games now. I let them punch it. But the trick is, I learned this from another parent in one of the Discords or Slacks I'm in. But you have the box, and then you put the token, the punch board on top of the box, so they punch into the box. Because otherwise, the first time I did it, they were punching it and went flung across the room, because they're just holding it like this, and they go boom. But then I was like, okay, now hold it over here like this, and then most of them go into the box. Okay, we're on the last question. What other people would you like to see do this tag?
I actually don't know all the people that have done it already, so...
Oh, okay, yeah. So I've seen a lot on YouTube, because I've been watching a bunch of different people on YouTube. So it's mostly been, I think, people on YouTube, and then people in comments too. So everyone in the comments, if you want to do it, you can do it. I'd like to see you do it. If
Ambie gives you permission.
Yes, I give you permission.
If you really want to.
You can. All right. Now you know you can. No, but I was thinking he's probably too busy. I know he's pretty busy right now, but the Dragon's Tomb would be fun to do it. So the Dragon's Tomb is a YouTube channel that does how to play videos that are completely accurate. And by completely accurate, I mean they're parody, funny things. But he's busy and hasn't had time to do much YouTube recently. So
I have a giant list that I've been working on.
Yeah.
So
I didn't want to make it. Yeah.
It doesn't. I can run through them kind of quickly.
Yes.
But I think I would love to see some people that are not primarily YouTubers also hop onto this trend. So some people who stream in other places, especially here on Twitch.
Yeah.
So I would love to see Benita. I would love to see her do this. I would love to see Amanda Panda. Jess CCG. Rolling with Rock. Silver Metal Tavern. Room 51. Bonzinator. And and board game spam. They would really probably enjoy this as well. Oh, and also I know that Suze and Mandy are starting up their new podcast sometime soon. And I don't know what the format of the new podcast is going to be, but I will say if they wanted to dedicate an episode to Tabletop Tag and answer these 20 questions, that would be pretty fun.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other people. I literally am already thinking of others that I don't want. Like, I'm gonna try and limit it because
I didn't want to like say too many people because I also didn't want to like leave someone out. So basically,
well, and I also want them to have people to tag, right? If we name everybody, like those are the people I'm gonna say. I think a lot of us have told like our origin story and how we got into the hobby, but this kind of gets into more specifics and a few other details that we don't always discuss when we tell those stories. So I really like this, and I hope it gave you all some insight into Ambie and I as gamers and what we like and how our hobby has progressed for us.
Yeah, so thank you, Board Game Garden.
Yes, thank you so much
for making up these questions. Good questions.
Thanks for joining us, everybody, for our version of Tabletop Tag. Drop your answers to the 20 questions in the comments below and tell us who else you would like to hear from in the Tabletop Tag trend. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you click that like button, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for more board game content. Thanks for watching.
Bye.